recording. I turn it over to you, Eric.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maria. And on behalf of the UA Careers community and the whole team, really excited to see this event coming and address you guys as part of it. As I get started here, feel free to pop any questions into the meeting chat so you don't forget anything. By the time we get to the end, I am going to try and recap and go back to some of the questions that you guys posed in the chat. So thanks a lot for getting started. Maria, I do have a PowerPoint, and I'm not sure if I can share that as part of my screen.
Yeah, go for it. You can share your screen.
Okay, just a moment here. Thank you. So this a word before I share. This is definitely not death by PowerPoint. I just think it's a lot better to look at something other than my face while we're talking about. So some visual cues and hopefully some humor too. So what we're talking about today is doing what you love and why that matters. And to me, this is really a core part of all the plans that we should make in life. And when we talk about career, that's the whole point, is that career is not some compartment of your life. Everything is your life. What you do at work, what you do at school, everything is your life. So the reason why interests come into this is because you shouldn't have a part of your life where you're unhappy, you're doing something you're not excited about. So I want to start with a story because as we'll find in this conversation, this is really all about a story. It's your story. And I want to tell you a story about a very dear friend of mine who I saw after a long period of time in Dubai after work. We made plans to meet up after work. Now, this young man is one of those guys. He's driven, bright. I mean, he lights up every room he comes into. He's dynamic. People love him. And not only that, driven, he's capable and smart. I'm not trying to get him a job here. I'm just saying he's a really great guy and studied really hard in school, got into the top engineering program in his country. Did well there, graduated with honors, super selective university. And I'm meeting him after a long time and I see him and he is a shadow of what I remembered him to be. And he says, "Oh, Eric, I have a headache. I'm so bad. Can we go get a cup of tea?" So I'm seeing him after work. He's been working in Dubai for about 2 weeks at this point. He's got his first EIT job as a young engineer. He's a young engineer. And we go for a walk. And I said, "What's going on? You look terrible." I say that with full love, but he did look bad. And he says, "I hate this." So he's slogging and he starts describing what is going on. He says, "I'm working long hours. I hate my job. I hate what I do. I'm away from my family." And he's from India. He's in Dubai working this job. And I'm walking. I've got my friend cap on, because he's my friend before everything. But also, I've got always in my pocket my counselor hat on, and I'm like, something's not right here. The kid that was the smartest, most driven should not be so unhappy, especially when he gets the opportunity. I mean, you think about it. This young man is living in another country. He's got his dream job. He's got a job as a young engineer. He's working on his first big project. He should feel great, but he's not. So what's going on? So this is the fundamental question, and I want you guys to ask this before you do anything or commit to anything. I asked him, "Why are you doing this job?" So after a cup of tea and another cup of tea and another cup of tea, we got to get to some answers. And what he described looked a little bit like what you see in the right part of this screen. When I asked him why and about his options, everything to me sounded like he was going to pick out a car from a junkyard. The options stink. Nothing is exciting. This job is bad, but then the other jobs are bad. I don't want to do any of those jobs. And the way he described his workplace, I wouldn't have been surprised if he had stayed in this role if he didn't turn out like this guy in the top left of your screen with the hammer trying to smash his computer in. He's being in and he's an engineer. Engineer is a profession that you have to throw a lot of hours into. Now, let's flip this for a second, because I know a lot of engineers who love their job. So engineer is not the problem. I have a friend, if you go over to his house, he loves to show you the plans of of the buildings he's designing. I mean, that's how much he loves being an engineer. And this young man would love to study, to work for his first job in a foreign country and be working on his first big project. So fundamentally, there's an issue here that this young man, my friend, has not really evaluated why he wanted to be an engineer at any point. He worked, and got to the point where he got his first big opportunity. And that's when he asked why. And my friend is not alone. According to a recent Gallup World poll, over 85% of people do not like their job. So it sounds to me like a lot of people have not not asked the question why soon enough. And I'm sure in the audience here, you guys know individuals who don't like their job. And when you think about these people, it's not pretty, because they're at odds. They're in conflict with a core part of what they do with their life. 8 to 10, sometimes more hours a day you spend at your job. And your job is a big part of your life. So why do a job that you don't like to do? And when I wanted to open with a story, that's because I think fundamentally that's what this is all about. We need to ask ourselves, what is our story, or where do we want our story to go? Now, for me, I would rather not shop at the junkyard. If I wanted a car, that picture of that Defender on the bottom right hand of your screen is exactly what I want. Now, that might not be what you want, but that to me is everything I like. Because probably I'm not a great driver. I have a family. I want something that's like a tank, and I love this boxy aesthetic. Something about this always appeals to me. So why not get the Defender? I don't want the junkyard car. And then I look over here at this picture of Elon Musk riding his SpaceX rocket like a bull. And I'm thinking, this guy's having a lot of fun and he's doing amazing things. And I wonder if we can flip around the way we plan for jobs so that we're not shopping in a junkyard, but we're getting the car we really want. And I think if we can flip it around and focus on the car that we want and figure out, okay, how can I make it mine? Then we can make ourselves a lot happier, a lot more successful in our career journey. And and I put Elon Musk here for a reason, because here's a guy. Now everybody's got flaws. He's definitely got flaws, but he's a guy who lets his curiosity and inspiration drive his own career. And he has a quote. The first step to establish that something, the first step is to establish that something is possible, and then probability will occur. So you might say, oh, this is impractical, letting your interests dictate your job search. But is it possible? If it's possible, that's an opening. And if there's an opening, if you work at it, which you need to do with any job anyway, whether you like it or not, you can make it happen. And that's what Elon Musk and a lot of other inspirational people are finding out is possible, and making things happen. So let's take a look at our interests. What is an interest? Hobbies and interests are the things we choose to spend our time doing. Now, think about that. If you choose to spend your time doing it, then that's something that you're probably not going to hate as much as as it's something you might feel more fulfilled spending most of your daily hours doing. But more importantly, your interests are really windows into the things that you value, into the things that you are good at, and into the things that you enjoy. And when we talk about our careers, if you hit on those three things, that you're doing work that means something to you or is valuable to you, that you enjoy it and you would do it anyway, you're on your way to a career journey that's going to be more satisfying, more fulfilling, and probably you'll be more successful doing it. And you might think, okay, this is impractical, but let's 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 take a step back. In life, holistically, career is a big part of it. And to be successful at anything, you need to work hard at it anyway. So why not let it be something that you really enjoy? So back to Elon Musk's quote: "Impractical, improbable are are not impossible." And as I look around at my friends who I graduated school with or grew up in the same town with, I look around at the ones that really inspire me, that are doing really amazing things, and all of them are finding ways to do that. And now in the new economy, you see billionaires coming up doing stuff that you guys, many of us, spend money doing. Instagram celebrities, YouTube celebrities. Instead, they make these platforms work for them. So I'm just going to share a couple more stories, because if it's possible for these guys, it's possible for many people. It's becoming more and more possible with changes in social media and the world. So on one end of the spectrum, you've got my friend Ted. Now, Ted went to boarding school with me. He's a great guy. He, like many other ambitious, driven guys, went into a career in finance, which he was also very good at. But Ted found that he is spending all of his vacation time going trekking and taking photographs, and that he lives for these vacation times, 2 weeks a year. One day he tells his boss, "I want to take 3 weeks so I can climb K2 and take some pictures." And his friend, his boss said, "You're crazy. Nobody takes 3 weeks at a time at a financial institution." So Ted did something that might seem extreme. It is pretty extreme. He quit his job and he said, "Okay, if I can't do this, but I really enjoy doing photography. Why don't I throw myself into my photography?" Now Ted is a photographer, a freelance photographer. He shoots for National Geographic. He organizes treks. He writes articles. He's got a social media channel. He's got a lot of followers. He won the Nature Photography Award last year, and he put his heart and his energy into the thing that he enjoyed the most. And ultimately, he will tell you, "I'm a better adventure photographer than I was a banker, and I'm a lot happier." And okay, this is an extreme case. Yes, he dropped everything. He moved from New York, went to Wyoming, and started climbing for a living. Not all of us want to do that or can do that, but that's only one way of your interests really informing what your career can be. I give two other examples here just from really close friends of mine. My friend Dr. Julia Basso, neuroscientist, but a professional dancer. Now, Julia heads a lab at Virginia Tech looking at the relationship between exercise and the brain, and how exercise can activate and inspire people to do greater things with their brain. It can strengthen certain aspects. She literally has a dance studio for her science laboratory, has sensors on people's heads, and she plays music and teaches a dance class. And this is exactly what I know my friend Julia to be all about. She's a yoga instructor, a dancer. She was committed to her career. She went to college. She got her PhD, just like you're supposed to do if you want to be an advanced scientist. But she also put it in the service of the thing that she really was most passionate about, which is dance. My good friend Dr. Nathan there is doing the same thing. We played played music together, noise rock. He was always interested in sound. Now he works. Now he works for the UK government, and he analyzes how shipping noise affects wildlife. And he's literally a scientist of sound. He works for international organizations to help make sure that sound doesn't have such an adverse effect on wildlife populations. And he gets to travel the world doing it, and he still plays music. My friend Jen, who's a computer game developer, the stories are there. So it's not impossible. We've worked out that there is a probability, there is a chance that you can put your interests into something that can make you do something really exciting. And and you see this more and more. So it turns out there's even a formula to doing this. How did they put their interests into their careers? One way is the way that Dr. Julie and Dr. Dan did. They are in the business of their interest. So they used their actual professional qualifications and married it with their interests. In Julia's case, it's dance, and Nathan's, it's sound. And they put the two together, and voila, they're the best dancing neuroscientist and scientist of sound that I know. Or you can sell or build for enthusiasts of your interest. So, for example, Jen played computer games all the time, but she got into programming and now she works for Electronic Arts, right? So she designs games, plays games a lot. She's in that video gaming culture that other people don't do for work. So she has work parties where she games. To a lot of you, that might sound pretty cool. Ted, the same thing. He organizes treks. Before, he used to have to spend his vacation days going on treks. Now that's his job. You can speak or write about your interests. I have another group of friends, another couple of friends that I went to school with. They are now professional tourists. They went on a honeymoon I think now 10 years ago, and they haven't stopped. They write about all the travels that they go to, and people sponsor them to go places. They have a National Geographic book, and they made it work, and they're still making it work. And on a recent visit back, I have to give a shout out to these guys. On a recent trip back to New York, I saw a man leading tourists around Greenwich Village eating pizza, and he looked so happy because he's getting to show all these people on a pizza tour all the best pizza slices in New York. I mean, talk about marrying a passion of mine with something like a fulfilling livelihood. I look on his website years back, and you have to book weeks in advance to get a pizza tour with Brooklyn Pizza Tours. So you can do it. So let's think about the bigger picture here. We're talking about interest. It's a key part of our career compass. We need to, fundamentally, this is about asking questions about ourselves and orienting ourselves to opportunities that are going to help us be successful, find satisfaction, and find fulfillment in. And interest is a big part of it. There's also your strengths, things that you're good at, your values. So for example, for me, I love making an impact with young people as they head into higher education. That's a key value of mine. And I think I found a good role for me for that. And your experiences. Experiences are fundamentally the way that we come to know more about ourselves if we reflect on them. If we don't reflect on them, then well, what we're not really that much different than the mindless, or I guess less present animals munching on food, right? So how can you do it? How can you make your interests go to work for you? First step, get to know yourself, reflect. What's your favorite subject at school? What are the things you enjoy doing? What are the things that are important to you? What are you good at? And then also, at the same time, think about people who are doing things that you want to do, or think about what you want to do. Maybe what you want to do isn't being done by somebody you know. Understand what that point is, and then make a plan to get there. So you have your point on the map. You've taken a log of your provisions, what you're carrying with you, your skills, your strengths, your values. You've got your backpack on. Now you make a plan to get there. And here's the key part. Just because it's your interest doesn't mean it's going to be easy. You know the saying, how do you get to Carnegie Hall? It's a big concert venue in New York. How do you get to Carnegie Hall? Practice, right? Practice. You can love violin as much as you want, but if you don't practice it, you're not going to be in the New York Philharmonic. So you have to do your passion. You need to do your interest with your whole heart and commit yourself fully to it. And that's when you're going to start finding results. Again, I don't think you need to quit your job or quit what you're doing. There's ways of making your interests work for you, but I realize I'm probably coming to the end of the time here. I want to open up for questions, and let you know that if you are having questions about any of these aspects of your career journey, I really encourage you to get in touch with me. And before I turn it over to questions, I just want to add one thing: is that at this career fair, you're going to see talks that really relate to this about interests and ways to find inspiration in your talk. You got a talk later on the side hustle. You've got talks on your school subjects. these are really interesting ways that you can really build on this conversation. And I just want to encourage everybody, put your questions in the chat, and if you have questions for me, please shoot me an email. I love this work we do, and I love finding out what makes other people excited. Usually I get excited about these things too. So over to you, Maria, and
Thank you
thank you,
so
everyone.
much, Eric. Thank you. Thank you. If you stop sharing your screen, we'd love to see you, Eric, and get in conversation. As we're talking, we've got Suhail giving you a big woohoo, a big shout out. We have Meenakshi saying, share the recording of this wonderful session. These recordings will be on the UAE Careers Community website in the next few weeks. Eric, just thinking about what you were talking about, I loved everything you said. I think we already know that we resonate really, really well with our ethos
Absolutely.
of careers education. Do you feel that what you talk about is one of the marginalized voices that we see right now in classroom settings? Do you find that, you know, we're talking about all these things, but are we the only ones in the room actually saying these things?
Yeah, and Maria, yes and no. Yes and no. And I'd be interested to hear your take on this too. I think more and more I'm seeing young people are seeing that there are different ways to do things, and they are hip to that there are other ways of doing things. And I have seen with my generation, my sister who's younger than me's generation, and after that people are seeing there's different ways to find a career, and more people are finding ways of making it work with the gig economy, with the side hustle that I'm saying it's coming up later, ways that people are finding different income sources. I think the old model of, you know, you get a job, you stay in a career at the same institution for 20, 30 years is not for every profession anymore. And that's a cool thing. Our career interests need to evolve. But at the same time, on the other end, there is a hysteria that comes with, I think, especially with really ambitious, really driven young people, is that they want to get their task oftentimes is more important to be at the front of the pack rather than know where the pack is going. And so I think it's really important as teenagers, as you're working on these things, to really make sure that you've got that compass in check. Am I going where I want to go? Because you know, these are the important things. What do you think, Maria?
I completely agree. I think, you know what, the more of us having these conversations with young people, that can only be a great thing. More than ever, we're seeing young people feeling really challenged by making these decisions for their future. And I think if we can just start having these conversations and making it okay to discover, making it okay not to know, and hearing inspiring stories like the ones you told us today. Eric, it was so wonderful having you. Al Diyar School is so lucky to have you working with their students. Give us a big shout out to Al Diyar. Tell us a little bit about the school just before we say goodbye and welcome our next speaker.
Thank you so much for that, Maria. And really is my pleasure and an honor to be here at the UAE Careers Community Virtual Fair. Something like this has not been done before. The Virtual Careers Fair with all of these speakers from all over the world. And I'm just really excited that my kids and kids at schools around the UAE are really getting a chance to plug in and learn from all of these inspiring people. Just a quick shout out about DR. We are an American curriculum private school in Fujairah, and we have amazing kids, and our kids are being prepared to do really great things. We have a great team here that I work with, and I'm really excited about my grade 12s and grade 11s. We have a lot of really outstanding kids that are they're gonna form a part of that slide about the people that I'm inspired by that are doing really interesting things with their life. God willing, I'm going to see a few of them up there because these kids inspire me now. So thank you so much for this, Maria.
Thank you. And it's so wonderful to have Dubai English Speaking College and Curtin University in Dubai working in collaboration with Al Diyar School as well. And I know that the UAE Careers Community, you know, our mission, and Eric was with us. Eric, you've been with us along this journey. We celebrated 2 years. This month is our 2-year anniversary It's so exciting to be collaborating with schools across the country to make sure that we are bringing a voice to careers education and helping young people get excited about their future. That was Eric James, who was zooming in from Fujairah, talking to us from his office in Al Dayar School in Fujairah. We are going to be welcoming our next speaker. Thank you, Eric. Thank you, everyone, for watching. I can't
Thank you
believe,
so
Eric,
much, guys.
I can't believe we get paid to do this job. I love what I do, and I know that you do as well. I want to
Likewise. Thank you, Mary.
introduce our next